Hi guys, welcome back to Taylor Made. I'm your host Blake, and this is my guest Lauren,
Hi.
and she is an expert on Taylor Swift. Today, we will be talking about the many different ways that Taylor Swift promoted equality throughout her career. So, at the start of her career, she was more a country singer, right, Lauren?
Yeah. I think she even won like awards for like Fearless being like a country album and stuff. Like she was definitely very country at the beginning, especially growing up in like Pennsylvania and stuff and I think Tennessee too, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And she definitely had a transition from genres, maybe to pop and indie folk. How would you consider her music like now, like present day?
I think that with her newest album, The Tortured Poets Department, Um, it's definitely like different than some of her earlier work, but I do also think that there are still like pop elements, and same with her album before that, Midnights, I think was a little more pop based, I
Hmm.
guess. But with her albums Folklore and Evermore, it kind of just like completely like showed a different side of her and her songwriting, and it was able to show people that she's just like a really good storyteller and like, includes like instruments that are like folk like, I guess, and all that stuff.
Hmm. And that's kind of a way of her like reinventing the female pop star, right? Would you say?
Yeah. 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 And it shows that like you don't have to be like if you like grow up as like a pop star and like that's what everyone sees you as, like you don't have to like stay in that bubble. Like you can like branch out and like just do what you want creatively.
Exactly. And I also think that it kind of shows that being a female pop star can be more than just, I hate to say it, but like eye candy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of times people see pop stars as just, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say? Like they see them not for their music, but rather their looks.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like she talked about that quite a bit in her documentary
Hmm.
that she had about herself. Um, I think that that really shows that you can be more than just what everybody else wants you to be.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously like being in such a big spotlight, like she's dealt with like like insecurities and like eating disorders and stuff, but
Hmm.
I think like as she moved forward and like with these new albums that like are kind of like not really pop, like they're a little bit pop, but it kind of helps her like break away from that. And it also like was able to inspire other women artists.
Exactly, exactly. I definitely think she broke ground in her career and changed the way that female artists can be themselves.
Hmm.
So now that we're talking about like other artists and things, Taylor Swift definitely had many moments in her career where she fought for empowerment and ownership for the artist, not the studio.
Hmm.
Can you briefly share any ideas that you have that supports that?
Well, obviously with like her re-recording her albums because they were essentially just like stolen from her by Scooter Braun, which was like her old like I don't was he like a producer or like her manager?
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
exactly like that.
so um in response to that, because I feel like a lot of like women in the music industry like deal with men who think they can just like walk all over them and like
Hmm.
go behind their backs and blindside them. But I think her response to it by like re-recording her albums and making them like Taylor's version, um, just shows that like you can fight for yourself and like fight against the music industry and like claim what is yours because obviously that's her music.
Exactly. Going back to the whole feud that her and her old producer had, I kind of just wanted to talk about that a little bit more. So during her career, she had a record label for, I believe it was 6 albums, and she didn't own the rights to the actual finished product of the
Hmm.
albums, but she owned her actual songs. So many people were confused about why she's just re-releasing these and thought it was just a money stunt to make more money off of a re-release. But anytime you would stream or buy that album,
Hmm.
that money would not be going to Taylor Swift. It would be going to the record label, which in this case, Scooter Braun, who purchased her albums before
Hmm.
she could, in a way to like spite her, which
Yeah.
I think is a little crazy. But now she's re-recording her albums and getting those rights back. So that's why everyone is so crazy about you have to
Hmm.
listen to the Taylor's version. You have to listen to the Taylor's version, but not.
Yeah.
That's just because you don't want to support someone who stole something from her.
Right. Like people can think like, oh, like she's just doing this for money, blah blah blah. But in the end it's not about that. It's about like supporting a creator rather than a thief, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I also think that it's definitely more than just money.
Hmm.
I don't think Taylor Swift has the money in mind. I think it's
Yeah.
more on the fact that she wants to take back what's hers
Hmm.
and not let someone else profit off of her own work that was stolen from her.
Exactly.
Yeah. And she also definitely had many instances where she pushed for better pay with streaming on like Apple Music and Spotify. So she's very big on like ownership and
Hmm.
getting what should be theirs, getting what they deserve, rather than letting all of these big recording studios and streaming companies profit off of these newer artists.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we've been talking a lot about Taylor Swift and her earlier career. Um, but let's try to shift towards like present day. With her successful Eras tour and her new re-recordings and her new album, The Tortured Poets Department. Um, how would you describe like these like the way that it changed the culture, especially with the Eras tour? Because we've never seen anything like that. Do you kind of want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yes, of course. Obviously, so both me and Blake were able to go to the Eras tour. It was a great experience. I
It
think
was.
that like there are so many Taylor Swift fans out there, and she hasn't really been on tour since Reputation, which was like a while ago. So the Eras tour was like a chance for all these fans to like come together, like make friendship bracelets, trade friendship bracelets, like come up with all these cool outfits. Like it was just like, and people can say like, oh, like Swifties are crazy, like they're obsessive, like a bunch of teen girls, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, it's just a ton of people coming together, supporting a music artist and also supporting each other and just like having a good time and appreciating the music and appreciating who Taylor Swift is and what she stands for. And yeah, it was just a great experience. And I think that she definitely had like the fans in mind when she decided to do it. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely think that her Eras tour was not, I don't know. I think that sometimes artists do tours for money and for
Mhm.
publicity to get yourself out there and to try and ride whatever momentum they had from their newest album.
Mhm.
But I definitely think that the Eras tour was not that at all. I think it was
Yeah.
definitely a way for her fans, especially the younger fans
Hmm.
to be able to be there live and hear all of these songs that
Hmm.
they probably wouldn't have been able to hear because she's been around for a while, and um, the Eras Tour brought together every single album that she
Hmm.
had at the time together into a coherent tour. I think that that completely changed the whole live industry.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say I feel like it definitely changed like concerts in general. Like especially with like the surprise songs that she would do, like where she would um do like a portion of the show every night where she would do like surprise songs. And I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of concerts after that started like incorporating like an element of surprise, like not necessarily songs, but like something that would be different in the show.
Right. And I think that that almost makes the tour and your specific concert special to you
Yes.
and your
Yeah.
location.
Okay.
Because with the Eras Tour, no two concerts were the same.
Yeah.
And I think that that adds something special to it, makes it more personal to you.
Hmm.
Because I think that if you ever talk about the Eras Tour to someone who is from a different location than you, like when I came here, I found here at Notre Dame, and I talked about the Eras Tour. One of the first things you ask are, "Oh, what were your surprise
Yeah.
songs?" And
Yeah.
I think that that is just another way that keeps people talking about it because
Yeah.
it is different. And you said that other artists kind of did a surprise element after
Mhm.
her. Do you have any artists in mind that specifically did that?
Well, like Sabrina Carpenter did like a different pose every night at her shows. I feel like
Right.
there's another one, but I can't think of it. But like I just feel like all like a ton of artists are just doing like
Hmm.
little things that are different. And
And I
like some
think,
are doing songs too, but yeah.
right. And I almost think it kind of didn't put pressure on, but it kind of made the Eras Tour kind of like I said earlier, change the way that live performances are held.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes other artists have to consider the fans more when it
Yeah,
comes to the live aspect.
I was just gonna talk about how at the Eras Tour she also did the portion where she would like give a fan the hat that she was wearing when she performed 22.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's just like an aspect that allows her to like give back to the fans and like make them feel special. And like back with like Sabrina Carpenter on her show, like she would do the portion where she would give someone the handcuffs and like fake arrest them.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, I also think that Taylor Swift had multiple different times where she was like vulnerable
Hmm.
and like authentic in her songwriting.
Hmm.
Do you have like any like right off the dome ideas of where she did that and showed herself being vulnerable in a huge spotlight like she has?
Yeah. Well, okay, I feel like the like one of the first thing that comes to mind is like Folklore and Evermore. I feel like those albums were definitely more vulnerable, but specifically like song-wise, one that comes to mind is The Archer, which is on the album Lover. And I feel like that song really sticks out because it was kind of her like starting to, I mean, she's always been vulnerable in her songwriting, but The
Mhm.
Archer obviously like deals with like going through anxiety and like having a panic attack and like stuff like that. And um I think the album Lover as a whole is definitely like one of her like key like pop albums. Like it's very like what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like almost like the epitome of pop, that whole album. But then like she adds the Archer into that album, and I think that was just kind of like displaying that, you can have all these fun songs and like happy beats, but like there's still always gonna be, like she has emotions just like everyone else does. Like she might be like famous and stuff, but she still goes through stuff. And
Hmm.
so adding the Archer to that album, I think, um, was like I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like it was different compared to the album, and then it kind of like paved the way for her to continue that vulnerability like through the rest of her albums.
Hmm. And I also think I Can Do It With a Broken Heart
Hmm.
in the Tortured Poets department really highlights how you can have like an upbeat song,
Hmm.
but when you listen to the lyrics, it kind of was her like being very honest with
Yeah.
us. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it shows again just that like she's a normal person just like us. Like she can be on stage performing all these songs, like looking like she's having a great time, but she can be brokenhearted, like she says in the song, like, but she can still do it.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess it just shows that it makes it more like relatable, I think, for the audience because they're able to see like wow, like, like some people might assume, like, oh my God, that's Taylor Swift. Like, she probably has the best life ever. But it kind of lets us see that, like, our emotions are, like, valid and, like, everyone deals with it?
Hmm. I think it makes it seem like she is human, but I think it makes us realize that she's human.
Yeah.
And when people think of like pop stars or just people who are famous in general, they see them as like so much better and like
Hmm.
so well off and so separated from all of us. And like you said, probably has no problems. They're
Yeah.
living life perfectly. But when she becomes vulnerable in these songs and even like talks about it
Hmm.
during her live performances or on documentaries, it shows that she too is human and has struggles no
Yeah.
matter how famous she is. And I think
Hmm.
that that's a really good message. Um, Earlier you talked about like the friendship bracelets at
Hmm.
the Eras tour. Um, I think that that is definitely a way for her to build a relationship with her
Hmm.
fans. I think that that added a whole nother layer to her being relatable because I think with the friendship bracelets, and even her mom down
Yeah.
on the floor handing them out, I think that that really just brings everyone who
Hmm.
was at the Eras tour or even didn't even get the chance to, but still participated in that
Yeah.
as a way to bring her closer, all of her fans closer together. And I think that that was just amazing.
Yeah. I think it shows that like music can really bring people together and Um, I just think it was such like a wholesome tradition, like
Hmm.
making friendship bracelets and then like getting to talk to people while you're like waiting in the merch line or like waiting to get into the venue and just like trading bracelets. Like it's just so cute
Yeah,
and fun.
I remember when I was there, um, we found our seats. We wanted to find our seats like early so we knew where to go.
Hmm.
And when we got there, there was, hopefully she's not listening, but an older lady. She wasn't too old. She was probably middle aged, and she had bracelets from her wrist all the way
I
up to
love
her
it.
shoulders on both sides. And I probably wasn't going to say anything, but she came up to us and she kind of brought so many people in like the section that I was in over to trade with each other and
Mhm.
to get us talking. And I think that that was really, really wholesome
Yeah.
for sure. Moving on from the Eras tour, I know that our next episode is going to be heavily focused on her political involvement. But I think it's still relevant when it comes to her like changing the way that people in the music industry behave,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't very common for people to, or people with such a big spotlight to engage in politics. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of seen as like, that's not your realm, and you kind of should stay away.
Yeah.
And that's how she was in her early career. But she definitely made um, a political stance in 2018 when it came to elections, the midterm elections, especially in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she talked about that in her documentary that she had, um, and about her feud that she had with her family. Her family didn't think she should do it. Um, she thought that she would get too much backlash, but Taylor Swift didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't care if she got backlash, and I think that that also speaks more to her character. She
Yeah,
doesn't
for sure.
care. Like, she was willing to put herself out there and to talk about something that might make her lose fans. But
Mm-hmm.
she knew deep down what was right when it came to LGBTQ rights and other
Mm-hmm.
things like that. She knew what was right, and she was willing to put herself out there to advocate for something that's right. And I think that that shows her character very well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, when it comes to her endorsing a candidate, um, coming from a political science major, I was in election 2024. It was a class that followed the election very closely, last semester. And when Taylor Swift endorsed, the Harris campaign, we saw an insane amount of new voter registrations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like she's just saying these things and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Her voice carries a lot of people who definitely weren't or aren't too involved in politics, like the younger population. And when she endorses a candidate, she sees a lot of these younger fans see her coming out of a out not hiding, but like coming out of her personal like safety when it comes to her
Mm-hmm.
fame, and like putting herself out there for what's right. I think that that carries a lot of weight for the younger voters, and it definitely shows because of
Yeah.
all of these higher voter registration counts.
Yeah. I think her, especially in the recent election, endorsing Harris is was definitely like a very powerful message. And like you said, it definitely does speak on her character because I think that, I mean, obviously she's always going to deal with hate and like people who don't like her, but doing that obviously is going to give a lot of people a big chance to hate on her just because of, who she's supporting in the election. But
Yeah,
I
and
think it also, go ahead.
the election was so divided
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
in 2024 that she chose to put herself in there. When
Right.
you see a lot of people with a spotlight who won't do that
Hmm.
unless they're already kind of known for their political stances. But
Hmm.
just her putting herself in such a divided debate
Yeah.
really speaks.
Yeah. And like obviously it gives a lot of people a chance to hate her, but it also gave a lot of people a chance to not be afraid to speak their mind and stand for what's right and vote for who they want to vote for. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Um, Moving on to some of the things that she really fought for during times where she spoke out into politics,
Hmm.
like gender and just other things like that. I know that a lot of times throughout her career, she was called many nasty things for the way that
Hmm.
she wrote and the way that she just did music.
Yeah.
What do you know about that? Because I know you did a lot of research and you did a lot of work with that throughout your 2 semesters.
Yeah, I think that something that she stands for that is very inspiring is like fighting against sexism and like double standards because she obviously has to face a lot of that being a very popular woman in the music industry. And um I think obviously when she made her song The Man, that just literally the whole thing just speaks on sexism and it's a great song.
Hmm.
And
And again, that is a song in the Lover album.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I see that her Lover album has so many
yeah,
different things, but it comes so coherently together as a
yeah,
way of her advocating for things like the man and you need to calm down. But we'll get to
yeah,
that in a second. But I'm sorry
yeah.
for interrupting.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think on the outside, Lover definitely just feels like a pop album because, like, it's upbeat and, like, it kind of comes off as happy, but it still comments on some of, like, some more serious themes. But,
Mhm.
um, I think she's, like, spoken about this in interviews before, of course, but in terms of, like, the double standards, like, a lot of people love to stereotype and be like, oh, she just writes breakup songs, like, or she just writes songs about boys, but no one really says that when a male artist like Ed Sheeran or Bruno Mars, like, no one ever really says that about their music, even if it's true. Like, they write breakup songs too, but
Mhm.
um, that's just one example of how double standards are like seen in the music industry and it's like upsetting to see, but I think that the way Taylor talks about it and like fights against it is really inspiring for like women and young girls all over the world.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's not, I think it goes beyond just the aspect of writing breakup songs. I
Right.
think just her talking about boys in general
Hmm.
can, I don't understand how it does, but some people see that as just a way that, or people just use that to slut shame her. And
Yeah.
I think that that is a little ridiculous when you have a lot of artists talking about how they do all these things to
Yeah.
women
Yeah.
and how they engage in sexual relationships with a whole bunch of women. But
Yeah.
that just is seen as badass and awesome and cool.
Exactly.
But when Taylor Swift talks about her breaking up with a boy who did some bad things to her, she's a slut, she's a terrible person.
Yeah.
Like what is with this double standard? I think that it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Agree.
And moving away from the double standard, um, her she is known to champion for LGBTQ rights.
Hmm.
And I think that that song obviously, or I think that that is shown obviously through "You Need to Calm Down,"
Hmm.
um, and that song definitely promotes LGBTQ rights, and not even just having those rights, but making it normal. And I
Right.
hate the word normal. I don't think that that should exist. I don't think there is a
Yeah.
normal, but I think that it should. She's using that to be, or they. She wants LGBTQ rights and people of that community to not be seen as weird and different, to just
Right.
be seen as regular people. Um, and she definitely, I think, did a great job with that. Her
Hmm.
music video, she brought in a whole bunch of people who are a part of that community um, to film that music video. And I think that the lyrics also bring out a lot. And I think um, the lyric, Shade never made anybody less gay. I
Hmm.
think that that lyric shows that making people hide and forcing them to not show it won't
Mhm.
change the fact that they still are.
Yeah.
And I think that it almost is another way of saying, like, if you are putting them, or if you're trying to hide them,
Hmm.
they're still going to be there, and it's still like they're still going to fight for their
Hmm.
rights. And I think having someone with such a big spotlight talking about something that is a little controversial when it comes to the two
Hmm.
sides, um, really helps out a community,
Yeah,
um, fight for what's right for their life.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that song, like, obviously, like we've kind of already talked about, is very like upbeat and like, it's fun to like sing and dance around to it, but it also obviously comments on things that need to be done, And
Right.
I think it shows that it kind of gives people an opportunity to like realize what is wrong in the form of music.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that when Taylor Swift makes such a singable, like, happy song that
Yeah.
has such a deep meaning to it, I think she does that on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that when she does this, it promotes people to sing it because it is such a, these songs are so catchy.
Yeah.
And when you are singing a song that has such a deep meaning, it almost just seems, I'm doing air quotes, normal.
Yeah.
And when you can sing a song about LGBTQ rights, I think
Hmm.
that that's her way of trying to show that it's normal and that it's a way for her to fight for rights in a way of using music. And I think
Yeah.
that that's so clever and low key genius.
Yeah. And I think that her making that song kind of like a pop song also just helped to mainstream it. 'Cause like I remember
Exactly.
when that song came out, like it was on the radio 24/7 and like I think that she definitely did that on purpose because she wanted everyone to hear it and everyone did. And yeah, maybe there were some people who weren't paying attention to the lyrics, but it's kind of hard not to with a song like that. And so I think
Exactly.
like it being so mainstreamed like really helped get that message across.
Exactly. Um, and yeah, I think that all of this shows that she's not afraid to fight for what she thinks is right.
Hmm.
And it sets her apart from other artists
Yeah,
because not many artists do that and
right.
talk about such controversial things that shouldn't be controversial.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren, for joining me.
Of
Um,
course.
this was our first episode of Taylor Made. Next episode will be primarily focused on her political involvement. We touched
Hmm.
on it a little bit, but next episode will be more focused on that. But thank you, Lauren, for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.